Welcome to Want to Learn Chemistry, a site to help you become a chemistry expert. Today you'll be learning about iron and steel. Find 8 facts that are true about iron and steel. Today you'll be learning how iron is extracted from its ore, the properties of iron, the properties of 3 main types of steel. To achieve a grade D, you need to be able to state that iron is produced in a blast furnace. To achieve a grade C, you need to be able to list metals in order of reactivity. To achieve a grade B to A star, you need to be able to explain the use of carbon in extracting metal from its ore.
Low-grade ore into the most used metal in the world starts at a 200-foot tall furnace. This is where the iron ore is hit with heat generated by a type of fuel called coke.
Coke is a result of burning the impurities and the junk out of coal that you don't need to get to the good stuff, which is going to burn cleanly and give you the nice, hot, clean fire that you need to make steel.
It's called the blast furnace because as the ore and coke flow downward, they're met by a 1600-degree blast of hot air, moving at 110,000 cubic feet per minute.
The wind is coming in at what we call the Bosch level of the furnace through nozzles, which are called tweers, and we have 18 of them, depending on the size of the blast furnace. That air is pushing up through a solid burden material.
The superheated air ignites the coke like charcoal in a grill and heats up the furnace to nearly 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, the oxygen is finally blasted away, leaving pure molten iron. But it's also doing something even more amazing. As the heat from the coke flame strips away the oxygen, the carbon in the coke is bonding to the iron.
You have hot blast going in, you have the material going in at the top of the furnace, and it's melting, and as it's melting, it's going down.
Under the extreme heat, the mixture liquefies. Impurities like silica and sulfur rise to the top. The heavier iron sinks to the bottom, where it's drawn out in a glowing molten stream.
The furnace until it turns into liquid, and it comes out the tap hole.
Every 45 minutes, some 500 tons of molten metal, called pig iron, gushes from the tap. It's called pig iron because it was originally cast into molds resembling piglets suckling a sow. But ironically, though the iron has been freed from the oxygen, the molten pig iron that flows from the furnace has a new problem: too much carbon. Over 4%, which makes the resulting metal much too brittle. To become steel, that number needs to be reduced to less than 2%.
Iron ores contain iron combined with oxygen in iron oxides. Iron is less reactive than carbon, so we can extract iron by using carbon to remove oxygen from the iron oxide in the ore. We extract it in a blast furnace. Some of the iron 3 oxide reacts with carbon. The carbon reduces iron 3 oxide, forming molten iron and carbon dioxide gas. This reaction takes place in a blast furnace. We can treat the iron from the blast furnace to remove some of the carbon. Removing all the carbon and other impurities from cast iron gives us pure iron. This is very soft and easily shaped. However, it is too soft for most uses. If you want to make iron really useful, we have to make sure that it contains tiny amounts of other elements. These include carbon and metals such as nickel and chromium. We call a metal that is mixed with other elements an alloy. Steel is an alloy of iron. By adding elements in carefully controlled amounts, we can change the properties of the steel. Steel is not a single substance. Like all alloy, it is a mixture. There are a lot of different types of steel. All of them are alloys of iron with carbon and or other elements. Iron straight from the blast furnace has limited uses. It contains about 96% iron and contains impurities, which are mainly carbon. This makes it very brittle, although it is very hard and can't be easily compressed. When molten, it can be run into molds and cast into different shades. This cast iron is used to make wood-burning stoves, manhole covers on roads and engines. Steels. The simpler steels are the carbon steels, made by removing most of the carbon from cast iron, just leaving small amount of carbon, from 0.03% to 2.5%. These are the cheapest steels to make, used in many products such as bodies of cars, knives, machinery, strips, containers, and structural steel for buildings. Often these carbon steels have small amounts of other elements in them. High carbon steel with relatively high carbon content is very strong but brittle. On the other hand, low carbon steel is soft and easily shaped. It is not strong but is much less likely to shatter on impact with a hard object. Mild steel is one type of low carbon steel. It contains less than 0.1% carbon. It is very easily pressed into shape. This makes it particularly useful in mass production such as making car bodies. Answer these questions to check your understanding. Why is iron from a blast furnace very brittle? Why is pure iron not very useful? And how do you control the properties of steel? Now let's go over the answers. Alloy steels. Low alloy steels are more expensive than carbon steels because they contain between 1% and 5% of other metals. Each of these metals produces steel that is well suited for particular use. Even more expensive are the high alloy steels. They contain much higher percentage of other metals. The chromium nickel steels are known as stainless steels, used in cooking utensils and cutlery. They are used to make chemical reaction vessels because they combine hardness and strength with great resistance to corrosion. And they do not rust. Answer the following 6-mark question. Most of the iron we use is converted into steels. Describe and explain how the differences in the properties of the 3 main types of steel allow them to be used in different ways. This is the mark scheme for answering the question. Using the internet, find answers to the questions. More questions for you to answer. Let's do a short quiz. Where is iron extracted from its ore? And the answer is blast furnace. What is a problem with cast iron that means it's not very useful? And the answer is because it's too brittle. Steel is an alloy of iron, and what else? And the answer is other elements, such most common is carbon. Steel that is mixed with other elements is called what? The answer is alloy. Why is stainless steel used to make cutlery? And the answer is because it resists corrosion. Summary questions. Copy and complete the following sentences using the terms below. More questions. How does cast iron differ from pure iron? Make a table to summarize the properties of and uses of some low carbon steel, high carbon steel, and chromium nickel steel. And B. Why are surgical instruments made from steel containing chromium and nickel? Now let's go over the answers. You have been listening to me at Want to Learn Chemistry, a site to help you become a chemistry expert. Like and subscribe for more videos.